Hi guys. How are you all beautiful people? Hope you all are doing fine. And yes, this is the next part of What If Naruto Reborn in Attack on Titan. So let's start. Boom. Boom. In the forest, Eren, who had transformed into a Titan, began to attack the female Titan without stopping, with heavy punches, elbows and knees. Eren's style was very violent and the female Titan was hit again and again. She had consumed a lot of physical strength all the way here. She became a Titan for the second time, so Annie could not have much strength to resist Eren in her energetic state. Eren learned his fighting skills from Annie, and also learned fighting skills from Takashi. Although Takashi felt that he still lacked much more experience to beat Annie without making use of his chakra, most of his Eren skills he learned himself. At this moment, Eren was attacking the female Titan with a basic boxing stance taught by Takashi, attacking again and again without stopping. Fighting, Eren couldn't help but be puzzled. He felt that the enemy's blocking was a bit familiar to him, and he even felt that the female Titan seemed to know his fighting skills very well, so many of his fierce attacks were dodged and blocked by her. Eren, who watched her attacks hit us, was a bit anxious. Roar! Eren in his Titan form became irritable and swung his fist at the female Titan. The female Titan avoided the heavy blow, turned around and ran away while Eren chased her mindlessly. Not that the female Titan couldn't be defeated, but she has to study the enemy and wait for Eren to make a mistake. Although Eren kept his sanity after transforming, the death of one of his teammates from Levi's squad still left him a bit overwhelmed. He should retreat at this point, but Eren didn't want to let the female Titan escape. Thus, the two Titans chased each other into the forest. Meanwhile, Takashi and Petra followed closely behind them. Both of them could not participate in this battle, otherwise Eren would be distracted. On the other hand, Captain Levi followed Commander Erwin's advice and refueled his tanks, then rushed to fight where his squadron started the fight against the female Titan. After learning where the squadron was, Captain Levi saw the lifeless body of Private Gunther Schultz lying on the ground. His body split in half, had been bitten by the female Titan. Levi's expression became more indifferent and his eyes became sharp. He looked at the tracks left by Titan blows and knew that Eren had transformed. What relieved him a little was that at least he didn't see the bodies of Oruo, Petra and Erd. They might still be alive. Just as he was about to look for where Eren and the others were, he heard Erd's voice in the distance. "Captain, over here." Levi averted his gaze and looked at Erd in the distance at the top of a tree. With his maneuvering gear he approached him immediately. "Erd, what's the situation? How are you feeling?" The female Titan surprised us. A soldier in our legion's uniform appeared next to us, and after seeing the second signal in the sky, we knew it was an enemy. Erd's expression was pale and he said, "Gunther died. If it wasn't for young Takashi we could have all died. I should follow them." "Where are they?" Levi looked at Erd and knew he had been wounded. Takashi and Petra went in that direction. Oruo went to call for reinforcements. Erd said with a suffering smile. "I understand. I'll take care of what's left. Rest here and wait for reinforcements," Levi said with a cold expression. "Captain, finish off that female Titan," said Erd, happy that his captain had arrived late but just when it was needed. "Good job." Levi gave Erd one last look before chasing the tracks left by the Titans, and on the other side, Mikasa, who was aware of Eren's roar after he transformed, also chased the rest. She left much later and was closer to Eren than the reinforcements. But she felt something much more for Eren and changed course. Her speed was too fast, completely ignoring the waste of gas she was making. At the same time, Oruo Brossard, who went to call for reinforcements, joined Commander Erwin and reported the process of the battle in detail. Commander Erwin's complexion was grim. He underestimated the strength of the female Titan. It turns out that she was able to transform again. He already knew the hardening ability, but he did not know if the high healing factor had used it before. Thinking about this, Takashi had to use his power to face the White Titan, who was successfully killed. According to reports, compared to the power of Eren and the female Titan, Eren's power is not good enough and his chances to win against the female Titan are not great. Commander Erwin looked at Oruo, who was touching his arms with a face full of despair, and asked, "You said Petra was saved by Takashi, how is she doing?" Oruo Brossard was puzzled for a moment and said, "His speed was too great, but mysteriously he didn't attack the female Titan after saving Petra. Is something wrong?" Commander Erwin looked off into the distance calmly. "Forget it, it may be exhausted from the long battle it has done since the expedition began." Erwin Smith speculated that the wear and tear on Takashi's body had been from using his power, and he wasn't entirely wrong. Takashi had suffered some sort of wear and tear that prevented him from continuing to attack the female Titan. Takashi, after having used his Susanoo and a weapon once again, he didn't want to make use of that power if it wasn't necessary. Today he had lost about 13 years of useful life, another heavy blow to his life and what he could live from now on. He was aware that the power of the female Titan was not too great. He was sure that he, his uncle Levi and Mikasa could take down the female Titan with ease. However, now is not the time. After being attacked by an unknown Titan, they all needed to regroup. Mike also reflected and remarked, "The one in trouble now is Eren. I hope he wasn't killed or captured." Oruo Brossard was very disappointed and said, "It's our fault. We revealed our position to our enemy and failed to contain the female Titan. Eren transformed to save us." The commander shook his head. He knew Eren's character better and would not blame Levi's squadron. Once Gunther was killed, Erd was injured and Takashi along with the others were in no position to fight. Eren would definitely have to fight. Now that most of Levi's squad was alive, this outcome was considered somewhat timely. As Oruo Brossard gave the report, 2 squadrons in perfect condition were sent to the support of Levi and Eren's squadron. They could not afford to lose Eren. As long as they survived, the war would never end. After Takashi and Petra were overseeing the battle of Eren and the female Titan, all they could do was stand aside. They could not help in this battle. Eren, who was still fighting, was once again suppressed by the female Titan. He was stunned by the female Titan's fighting skills. Sure. Seizing the opportunity, the female Titan kicked Eren's head and with the hardened foot, in a matter of seconds the attack came without Eren being able to do anything. Plaff. Eren in his Titan form lay motionless on the ground, stunned, not knowing what had happened, and before he could know he had been defeated, he looked up at the female Titan. How would Eren continue to fight if his head had been torn off? In this situation, there was nothing else he could do. "Petra, you go get Eren and I'll take care of distracting the female Titan," shouted Takashi as he saw that Eren had been defeated. "Be careful." Petra agreed. Taking a long breath, Takashi prepared to attack the female Titan. The only thing he could do now was delay her while Petra took Eren. Swoosh. Without the female Titan discovering Takashi's existence among the trees, he took advantage of the moment he was distracted with Petra and attacked. Cut. Moving as fast as he could, Takashi was able to hit one eye of the female Titan successfully. Moving quickly through the trees, Takashi pretended to attack several times to make the female Titan's defenses go up. In the distance, Mikasa looked at Eren and rushed to help. She had to save Eren and get out of this place. "Cadet, what are you doing? Go help Takashi, I'm in charge of getting Eren out of here," Petra shouted with a cold stare. It was then that Mikasa reacted and looked at Takashi, who was dodging the female Titan's punches with a lot of work. However, just before Mikasa joined the battle, a shadow came out of the forest and blinded the other eye of the female Titan. Takashi, who sighed in relief at the sight of the reinforcements, backed off, leaving room for Levi to deal with the female Titan. Seeing Levi's dexterity in making use of his three-dimensional maneuvering equipment, Mikasa felt that Takashi was very similar in dexterity. The female Titan no longer had the physical strength to continue facing Levi and other more soldiers that were closing in as she continued to fight. Reluctantly, Annie found an opportunity to defend herself and get away from Eren. Levi's operation was perfect. He wounded the female Titan badly before stopping. It was not safe to continue fighting in this condition. Takashi seemed to be in very bad condition and Erd still needed to be rescued. When Levi had the opportunity, he retreated along with Takashi and the others. After Captain Levi stepped back, he looked towards the female Titan and to his surprise, the female Titan was crying. Outsiders can't understand Annie's mood right now. It's not just that the mission failed. When she first entered this island, she lost someone very important in her group. Because of her fear, she could not become a Titan to save him. Times were tough and Reina took on the role of leader to continue the task. He almost died numerous times before he was able to reach the wall Maria. After destroying the wall, they mingled with the inhabitants of these walls. She worked day and night for the mission to be completed. She joined the gendarmerie but discovered nothing, and just as she was about to capture Eren, everything went wrong. Not only did everyone know her weaknesses, but there was another human with a power far more fierce than any other Titan. Even the Warhammer Titan was completely defeated. Now he knew that this mission could not be completed by just the three of them. They had to wait for the Beast Titan to appear. There was no other way to defeat Takashi. The Survey Corps was resting in a plain outside the forest. Takashi and Levi didn't take long to return with the support squads and Eren. Commander Erwin was relieved. Eren was not kidnapped, so still victory was not something illusory. This time he made many mistakes. He did not expect another Titan to appear as powerful, as well as he did not foresee the roar of the female Titan. After Captain Levi returned, he looked at Oruo Brossard, who was bandaging his arms. Seeing that 3 people from his squadron were able to survive, his expression became calmer. Takashi felt very exhausted. After all, he was not a man with infinite energy. Feeling that his body could give no more, he was helped by 2 soldiers who came to his aid. The commander looked at Takashi and asked Levi with slight concern, "How is he?" The news that Takashi had the ability to summon a Susanoo was suppressed by all the top commanders of the Survey Corps. At the place where Takashi had shown his power, there were only soldiers of the commander's highest trust, so they all decided to keep the secret. Everyone unconsciously called Takashi the Sword Demon. No one could match his speed and excellence of using swords like Takashi. Mikasa, who was taking care of the unconscious Eren, lowered her head with some embarrassment. She didn't know why she approached Eren instead of helping Takashi. Before even supporting Takashi, she decided to check Eren's condition, endangering everyone. Levi's expression remained unchanged and he said, "He seems to be suffering from more than just extreme tiredness. His ability with which he defended us all has a very big cost. Those are the consequences of using that power." Levi was a serious, cold man who did not show his true feelings. He did not know how to make a connection with his nephew, nor did he know how to choose the right words to tell him not to use his ability that is slowly ending his life. He will need a lot of rest. He says he will be fine after that. How is the situation? Levi asked without mentioning Takashi much. Commander Erwin's expression sank for a moment and he didn't respond. That's not good news. Armin had already told him a guess as to the identity of the female Titan. Although he wasn't entirely sure, there were many ways to be sure. Right now, the large part of Levi's squad was injured and Takashi seems to be not in good condition. That doesn't seem to be good news. Levi noticed that Erwin's face was not very good and said, "What's wrong? Now we retreat because of the situation. Do we still need to fight?" "I am in good condition, I can still go on." Commander Erwin Smith shook his head and looked at Eren who had climbed into one carriage and then towards Takashi who had climbed into another next to Sasha, wondering if they could defeat the female Titan next time. Erwin looked at Levi and pointed out, Takashi killed out an intelligent Titan. Fragments of what appeared to be a huge bow could be collected. The matter is similar to the hardened skin of the female Titan. Also, we now know that intelligent Titans are not invincible. We eliminated the one that appeared to be the strongest, so we didn't lose entirely. This battle went relatively well thanks to Takashi's sacrifice. We are now much closer to our victory. That's right, only Gunther from my squadron died due to an oversight. Takashi has done a lot for the Survey Corps. No doubt Takashi's performance and sacrifice gave them something less than a defeat. His observations and care made good things come out of this bitter pill. Commander Erwin's eyes narrowed slightly. Have you decided to let him be captain? Levi snorted coldly. Let him recover first. If he can't keep up with the Legion, forget it. Commander Erwin smiled. He remembered what Hange Zoe told him about Takashi. This nephew of Levi could bring victory to all mankind one day. When he is ready he can be. Takashi lay down in a carriage and slept during the return trip. After a few reassuring words to Sasha he was completely exhausted. On the plain outside the forest, the Survey Corps members rested and collected the remains of their fallen comrades in battle. When the expedition started there were 233 soldiers, with a total of 14 chariots, and now there were only 180 soldiers left. More than 50 soldiers died directly at the hands of the female Titan. The roar of the female Titan attracted many Titans that were to be eliminated. At that time, the Legion had disastrous casualties. At first glance it can be said that this expedition failed completely. Not only did they lose a large number of soldiers, but also many supplies. However, in this battle mankind was able to take the life of an intelligent Titan and learn much more about the female Titan. That's what everyone believed. No one knew the powers of the Warhammer Titan. After returning this time, Erwin can explain the gains over the losses of this expedition. Although the outcome was not as expected, there were still gains. The recruits resting and feeding their horses felt very heavy when they saw the rows of corpses on the ground and on the carriages that had been wrapped in white cloth. Because the recruits of the 104th Cyclo participated in the battle, there were many casualties of inexperienced soldiers. And now seeing so many people dead, those who survived couldn't help but wonder how long they might live. You know, this was the first time they had conducted an investigation outside the walls. Jean looked at Armin, whose head was wrapped in a bandage. I'm a bit doubtful about my choice now. I really don't know how long I can live. Armin lowered his head and forced a smile. Don't think about it too much. Once you think about your own death, you won't have the courage to fight. Jean was a little upset and Armin tried to comfort him when he saw this. Jean, you don't regret the choice you made. Now all we can do is move forward. Jean snorted, you're pretty convincing. Armin wasn't angry either. Look, Takashi, even wounded he doesn't let go of the sword in his hands no matter if Sasha insists on taking it from him. Jean looked towards Takashi and said, you know, I thought Takashi was injured, but he's just exhausted. Connie, who was feeding Takashi's horse, was also frustrated. Hasn't anyone told him about Nelson and Thomas? I guess I should tell him, this is crazy. Nelson had died and Thomas was seriously injured. It was not even known if he would live after losing consciousness. Yama was upset and said, you should tell him, but not now, later. Krista was silent. Nelson had died, yet this news was something Takashi would not take very well. She could do nothing but support those still alive. Losses are high, morale is low, so it is now. The Legion did not stay long due to the fact that it was not safe to stay in the same place for long, so the commander ordered to leave directly. They all got on their horses and the Survey Corps Legion started to retreat towards the Karanes district. Due to the long way they had to travel, naturally the group of carriages attracted several Titans, and some carriages carrying the bodies of the victims inevitably slowed down and were gradually overtaken by the Titans. Damn, it's too close, let's fight. Cursed Jean, but he didn't dare to initiate an attack. Armin noticed some more Titans running close and shook his head. No, this can't last forever. Then what should we do? Shouted Jean. This way, all we can do is throw them away. Armin hesitated for a moment and didn't say the last words out of respect for his companions. The two were silent for a moment. Both were smart people and obviously knew what to do. Captain Levi, who was in perfect condition, moved to take out the pursuing Titans. Without waiting for anyone to move, he slowed his horse and moved to the rear of the Legion. The others on the carriages were surprised to see Captain Levi close behind. Take good care of those carriages, children. Levi wasted no time talking nonsense and stood on his horse. The grudge he felt he had to release today and attacked the Titans coldly. Whoosh! The anchor of the three-dimensional maneuvering equipment was attached to the forehead of a Titan, and when the Titan wanted to grab the retractable rope, it had already moved towards the two Titans and cut them off instantly. Slash! Slash! Levi turned his body, the edge of his blades flashed and in an instant, blood flew from the bare part of the neck of two Titans. Both Titans fell to the ground. Since the expedition started, Levi couldn't do much to support everyone, so now is the time to do something for everyone and at least secure the bodies of the fallen soldiers. After discarding many flashy and superfluous moves, his current combat method is obviously lethal. So fast. Jean looked at Levi in surprise. Captain Levo didn't stop and rode towards the left rear of the Legion, where three other Titans appeared. Slash! Lavi moved at high speed towards the face of a 10-meter-tall Titan and took him out before the Titan noticed. Since he realized that Gunther had died and his nephew sacrificed years of his useful life without him being able to do anything for them, Levi felt very furious. Whistling. Rarely could the soldiers see a Titan being killed so violently. Levi moved every which way to get rid of the Titans. Blood gushed out, the Titan's head fell to the ground, rolled several times, and the headless body fell on the grass and began to smoke steam. Levi, who changed his blades, jumped on his horse and followed the Legion from behind. And after eliminating three more Titans, there were no more enemies nearby. Captain Levi is so strong. Immediately, Armin, who was in charge of guarding the bodies of his comrades, was a little surprised. there was only one person who could kill so many titans in a row, and that was Takashi. Jean was also very surprised. Not for nothing is he considered the strongest man in the world. Armin nodded. Very few could match Captain Levi. I'm afraid the only one who could would be Takashi. Jean looked at Levi in admiration and said, now I understand why everyone looks up to him. His strength in battle is so incredible. Armin nodded and said, there is only one minor difference. Takashi seems to exert no force when he cuts titans. What always impresses me is seeing how he kills titans with relative ease, unlike Captain Levi. You're right, Captain Levi's cuts you can feel the force. Jean agreed. Takashi, who watched his uncle eliminate all those titans, breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't want to leave any comrades out. The door to the Karanes district slowly opened, and the Survey Corps, who lost many soldiers, returned to the city with an anguished expression. Today they had discovered more than just a defeat. Today everyone knows that intelligent titans are out there, and they are more dangerous than 50 titans combined. Passers-by coming and going looked at the Survey Corps members, who had evidently reduced their original numbers. Their morale was low. Many of them were even wrapped in bandages and with blood stains on their clothes. Looks like they lost a considerable number of soldiers again. Isn't it obvious? Look at the lumps of corpses in the carriages. It's a big loss again. Looks like our tax money was wasted again. Now I wonder if we'll ever be victorious. You shouldn't count on them. These voices, naturally, reached the ears of everyone in the Survey Corps. Everyone's faces were ugly, and even the recruits lowered their heads, forming a sharp contrast to before they left. Many looked at the sky, all wept with helplessness for not being able to achieve a victory and shout to everyone that they have won. What the masses think is something everyone in the Survey Corps must accept. No one cares how the Survey Corps failed, no one asks if it was hard or they were afraid. Captain Irwin, may I ask if the Survey Corps has made any contribution? Someone in the crowd asked. Irwin Smith was expressionless and shouted, today the Survey Corps fought valiantly for humanity. We managed to kill one of the titans that attacked the Maria Wall. Hearing these words, not only the civilians were shocked, but also some of the soldiers who were not informed about what happened inside the forest. The female titan was killed. Are you lying to us? Someone in the crowd looked towards the Survey Corps commander. Irwin looked at everyone. I wouldn't dare lie to you. Today we have taken a big step in our fight with the titans. He knew this credit was due to Takashi, who sacrificed years of his life. He couldn't deny it, but he decided to at least mention that credit to everyone. Everyone fell silent and started shouting in excitement, well done, Commander. We have finally started to eliminate those special titans attacking humanity. A special titan was killed. Long live Survey Corps. Without saying any more words, Irwin just wanted to boost the morale of the civilians and show that they weren't just losing. Some shouted beautiful things to Levi, others praised the efforts for the wounded people. Aaron in the carriage heard the discussion in the crowd. He felt a little happy, but he didn't know which titan had been eliminated. It was definitely not the female titan. Then who? Aaron saw some children looking at them excitedly. Pointing to the Survey Corps soldiers, the children shouted to the adults, look, the Survey Corps has accomplished something many thought impossible. You shouldn't be so hard on them. Despite being wounded, they didn't give up on this war. Aaron suddenly remembered himself from many years ago. When he was young, he saw the Survey Corps return with heavy losses very similar to the way they were. Unwilling to look any longer, he laid back down as he covered his eyes. No one could look at his silent tears. After training hard for 3 long years, he finally became a Survey Corps soldier. He thought there might be a great job, but he again lost and became a burden to everyone. Mikasa in the carriage looked at Eren, who covered his face and cried, took his hand, not knowing how to comfort him. The Survey Corps veterans were not feeling well either. Oruo Brossard, who had bandages on his arms, was very depressed. Gunther is dead, I don't even know how to look at his relatives. Petra and Erd next to him had somber expressions, we have to tell his family anyway. We have to all go as the squad we are, we fought by his side before he was killed. Erd said in a cold voice. No matter how many times he experiences this kind of thing, he can't get used to it. On the other hand, Petra's father appeared out of nowhere and was talking to Captain Levi. Captain Levi, I wanted to discuss a few things with you before she sees me. She wrote me a letter saying that she had joined your squadron and was honored to work under your command. Ha ha, she's so little, I really don't want her to get married so soon. Levi, on the other hand, wasn't in a bad mood. You could even say he was a little glad that Petra hadn't died, otherwise he didn't know how to face Petra's father. Young Petra finally found her father, who was chatting with Captain Levi, and was very embarrassed. She probably guessed what he would say, so she ran and took her father somewhere else. Captain Levi breathed a sigh of relief. He really wasn't very good at dealing with such things. Takashi also listened to all the voices and doubts around him. Lying in a carriage, his face remained unchanged and he decided to rest. People sometimes are straightforward and don't consider all the effort behind it. Sasha also watched everything from next to Takashi and said nothing. Today she was sad of the many bad things that had happened. Liam, who was in the crowd, looked at Yama and Chista. He couldn't look at Takashi, so he asked, "Where is Takashi?" Yama looked at Liam and pointed to a carriage without saying a word. As Liam looked towards the carriages, he felt a shiver run through his body. It couldn't be happening, Takashi died. Takashi, how dare you die, you bastard! Didn't you say you would kill all the titans in the world? Get up, you idiot! Liam's scream was not long in coming. Everyone was stunned by Liam's cries. He sure is a brainless idiot. Yama muttered with a grimace. Yama, you need to explain things properly so there's no confusion. Krista scolded Yama and tried to solve the problem. No, he's just asleep. Sasha said nervously. An eternal sleep among the blankets of darkness. Takashi wakes up. Liam shouted without paying attention to Sasha's words. Takashi, who was completely motionless, frowned as he heard the screams of the idiot Liam. Opening his eyes, he looked at Liam and said, "Stop making a fuss, I'm not dead yet, so don't kill me so soon." Liam, who was crying, looked at Takashi, who had sat up and reached out his hands to touch his face. "Are you a zombie? Stop hallucinating, you idiot!" shouted Takashi with a strange feeling. He was feeling like he really had died. Takashi, how can you be asleep like that? Don't you have any consideration for your friends? Liam said, "I want to talk to you." Takashi jumped out of the carriage and walked with Liam to a secluded place. Liam lowered his voice and said, "Takashi, you should have seen how Eren became a titan in the battle to take back the Trust district a month ago, right?" Takashi had a strange expression on his face. "What do you mean?" "That night at the Snowy Mountain Trail, the lightning we saw was made by Yama, right?" Liam narrowed his eyes and pointed. "On that night Daniel was in a coma and Krista said that Yama had gone ahead to take Daniel to the camp. He arrived an hour before us." "Well, actually, I've known about this for a long time. I've asked several teammates, and the recapture of Trust hasn't gone out of everyone's sight. It's not an enemy titan, and it's unlikely to be one of those who attacked the Wall of Trust." Takashi said with a matter-of-fact expression. Liam was surprised. You already knew that. Yama is a titan. Takashi mentioned fake words to him with some truth. Liam was a bit silent after hearing this, and Takashi asked him, "What are you going to do, expose her?" Sighing, Liam said, "I don't know how to do it." "Do you trust her?" "I can trust her, after all she saved Daniel." "Why do you think she hid her identity?" "It's probably to protect herself from others." "Don't look at her bitter look. She doesn't really feel safe and is very defensive of others," Liam said with a thoughtful expression. "Really?" Takashi smiled and said, "Liam, do you know what we're doing? Now we're withholding information that's important to humanity and we can't put personal feelings above everyone's safety." "Yes, but I can't ignore this discovery. I know it's not the way to go on like this. Should you have an idea?" Liam looked at Takashi and then at the wound on his foot. Yama, even though she was a witch, she helped him in many things and she really wasn't a bad person. "Don't worry, I already talked to her years ago and she decided to fight for humanity as well as Eren did." Takashi said, "I have plans for the future of this war. You shouldn't rush and just watch how things develop." "What if she is an enemy?" asked Liam hesitantly. Takashi opened his eyes wide. "You better not, I don't want to kill her." "Really? Since you already knew that, why didn't you do it before?" "She's my partner and I promised to protect her from harm. She promised me she wouldn't betray me and would keep her ability a secret." Liam smiled. "You are so gentle, I thought you would say you would find a safe way to kill her." Takashi shook his head and said, "Who knows? Maybe I will in the future, I might even marry her." "Really? I'll leave it to you, and I'll keep it a secret for now." "Okay." The Survey Corps members walked slowly through the streets of Karanes and then returned to the castle in Rose's territory. The gendarmerie members soon delivered the order to hand over Eren and the commander himself will have to give an explanation for the alleged lies he told to the public. The Survey Corps suffered great losses this time. How dare they say that they have killed an intelligent Titan? As a result they have lost the power to hold Cadet Eren Giga unless they prove otherwise. Captain Erwin ignored the arrogant gendarmerie corps and did not panic. He brought 4 recruits, Eren, Mikasa, Armin and Takashi, and a group of senior Survey Corps members to a meeting. Commander Erwin said in a deep voice, "You know the situation. The order was issued from the central government to transfer Eren." Mike, Hanj, Levi and Dirk did not speak, they just waited in silence. Commander Erwin is not one to give up lightly and will not allow them to be accused of fallacies. Commander Erwin looked at Armin. "Olet, tell everyone your assumption." Armin told everyone that he suspected the female Titan was Annie, and everyone was surprised. Captain Mike frowned and said, "You have no real evidence. How can you be sure Annie Leonhardt is the female Titan?" Armin said, "After the enemy saw my face clearly, she let me go. Maybe it was because she was my friend, so she spared my life." Even after Eren became a Titan, his appearance was still very similar to himself. "I always felt very familiar with the female Titan's eyes. Most likely the female Titan is a female, with yellow hair and I can only think of Annie. And she was looking for someone by appearance from the beginning. If she wasn't familiar with Eren, she wouldn't be able to do this at all. More importantly, the last time the maneuvering equipment was checked, she had that of Markobot who had died at the hands of a Titan." Nanabar frowned, a little hesitantly, "But this is all just speculation. It's possible she killed the test subject just out of hatred for Titans. This isn't very reliable. What if I make a single mistake? Zoe had a pained expression etched on her face. After only a few days of experimenting with the Titans, they were killed. She is very upset. Takashi had a cold expression on his face and averted his gaze to Eren. So that's how it is. Eren, you who fought with the female Titan and have trained with Annie before, how sure are you of that? Eren lowered his head with a guilty conscience. When Armin suspected that the Titan was Annie, he knew that 90% of it was true. The reason he was stunned and defeated in seconds was because the female Titan's fighting gestures were exactly the same as Annie's. And that sense of familiarity wasn't fake. He just didn't want to believe it. Mikasa recalled, I also think it's very similar to her. I always feel Annie has a resemblance when I remember the female Titan. Seeing this, Hange, Levi and Mike knew that Armin's guess was probably true. Armin, according to your words, did you suspect her for a long time? Takashi asked coldly. Recently Connie told him that Nelson was killed and Thomas was seriously injured. He was sure that if he knew of something that implicated someone with the Titans, he would not hesitate and face the person without hesitation. There were many deaths and all because Armin decided not to believe that Annie was an enemy. I didn't believe it at first. Armin said with a worried expression. Do you know what we lost? Not only my friend died, but soldiers. Takashi pounded the table angrily. If you know who the damn enemy is, cut his throat. Do you know how I feel now because of your stupid conscience? Everyone was surprised to hear Takashi's anger. To tell the truth, thanks to him that the operation turned out in a better way. Should I teach you how to deal with an enemy? Takashi asked coldly. That's enough, Takashi. Mikasa interjected with a cold expression. Is that enough? You are worthless. Instead of supporting me, you went to check on Eren's well-being. I could die today and you would be the one responsible. Takashi this time couldn't let Mikasa's irresponsible attitude go. There will be a chance to check Takashi, for now we have to keep calm. Erwin said, seeing Takashi so upset. He heard that he had lost a very close friend. If you omit a detail again that endangers the lives of my teammates, you will bear the consequences. Takashi said before sitting back down. He was furious. Annie turned out to be the female Titan, and it turns out that Armin had suspicions from the start. No one in the room had seen Takashi so upset since they met him. Armin could even feel that Takashi wanted to hit him. Very few knew that Takashi had the power of a Susanoo, and only they knew what Takashi had to sacrifice. Besides that, in the details about his file it mentioned that he showed a sociable and understanding attitude with everyone. I'm sorry Takashi, I didn't think things would get to this point. Armin didn't know the way to express his regret. Takashi sighed wearily. Today he had lost a friend he thought would be as strong as Mikasa or Jean. He didn't think Nelson's end would come so quickly. The commander had decided on a course of action and asked, I have decided to proceed with the investigation. For now, I need a soldier who looks like Eren. Do you have any ideas? Everyone looked at Eren and thought about it hesitantly. Armin, who hesitated to speak, said, I think Jean Kirstein can pretend to be Eren. Eren was stunned. What? Armin, how do we look alike? I don't have a horse face. Takashi thought seriously and said, no time for silly games. Your back and height are very similar. There won't be much difference if you both wear hoods. Erwin Smith looked at Takashi and asked, is it reliable? Cycle 104 newcomers are no longer trustworthy. The female Titan has allies, you know that better than anyone. You have my word, Commander. Jean was born in the Trust district and her identity history is completely traceable. I knew her mother personally. he is not an enemy. Commander Erwin nodded. He trusted Takashi fully now. He proved he was a good soldier and is willing to give his all to see humanity win. I will formulate a detailed battle plan a few days later, Takashi. Now the front-line battle is under your command, okay? Armin, Mikasa and Eren were puzzled. This decision was a bit sudden, but it was actually a well-thought-out strategy. Commander Erwin needed to leave with the fake Eren, Hange-Zoe needed to set the trap, Mike had an undecided task for the moment, Hange and Levi to be on the lookout for another Titan to appear. There is not much manpower that can be mobilized for this battle, because there is no permission from the higher command and not much attention has to be drawn, because any mistake could cost them dearly. The main force of this battle is the 4th Squadron, and Takashi has now officially joined Hange-Zoe, and his combat effectiveness is outstanding, becoming unmatched at key moments. Takashi looked at the commander and the Survey Corps senior commanders, then looked at his uncle who was watching him silently. They had obviously been briefed beforehand. No problem, Commander, I will not hesitate to take the heads of my comrades if they are enemies of humanity. Levi tried to teach his nephew well and said, Takashi, some soldiers will be under your command at that time, they will put their lives in your hands. Should you know what your responsibility is? Takashi nodded seriously. Of course he knows that this is not an easy job. This time he was not acting alone, his every action will have consequences on all the people under his command. After the meeting, Takashi, Eren, Mikasa and Armin along with the others left. Armin looked at Takashi and hesitantly spoke, well, Takashi, why are you so calm in this situation? You and her should be good friends, aren't you reluctant? Takashi stopped and looked at Eren and the other two looking at him. You know, my friend Nelson died in this operation and Thomas is seriously injured. You must know better than anyone what it feels like to lose a friend, right? Life is a book where different stories are written. We are the enemies of the Titans and the Titans are our enemies. If you ever hesitate to kill your enemy, at least in this book you will be completely annihilated. She showed no mercy and I assure you neither will I. Armin, do you think you are guilty? Annie is a beautiful girl, I think for the time I know her I will give her a fitting end. Armin lowered his head, his expression complicated. She didn't kill me after she saw me, but I exposed her. However, when I think of Squadron Leader Ness and all those who are now dead, I hate her so much. I don't understand why she can kill so many people. Obviously, she's not a ruthless type of person. Eren was also very doubtful, and so far he was unwilling to believe that Annie, who patiently taught him fighting skills, was the female Titan who killed many of his comrades. Only Mikasa is very calm. Yes, for a long time she has been annoyed that Annie often mixes with Eren, and the last time Eren was almost snatched by the female Titan in front of her. She will show no mercy in cutting Annie. Takashi looked directly at Armin. Armin, if you hadn't said it and on the other hand I realized that you know, I would have eliminated you myself along with the female Titan. After saying that, the coldness in Takashi's words became more evident and he pointed out, you have done the right thing, just think of Marco, Nelson, Thomas, Minor, all of them have died for the intelligent Titans. Of course we will negotiate with her first. If she is willing to surrender and cooperate with us, we will show mercy. But if she doesn't decide to cooperate, there will be no choice but to use force. If she decides to fight, I don't want any of the three of us to get in the way if they don't want to fight. On the battlefield sometimes you can't tell who the enemy is. Takashi walked away. This is no longer this world's war, now this is his personal fight for all the friends he has lost so far. Eren looked dejected at Armin and patted him on the shoulder. Armin, maybe it's not that bad, Annie may not be the female Titan. Armin didn't say a word, he wasn't that naive, he knew Eren still didn't want to believe that Annie was a Titan. The next day, the commander made a plan and called Takashi to discuss it together. This time only Erwin, Hange, Levi, Takashi, Mikasa, Eren, Armin and Jean were present. As for Captain Mike and his squadron members, there is another very important task to be executed. It was decided that he should observe if there are accomplices of the female Titan among the recruits of Cycle 104. Hange Zoe first asked a question. There is nothing wrong with the battle plan, and the arrangement is very appropriate, but is it really good not to have Mike's squadron in this operation? We don't have enough manpower. Erwin is very adamant, there is no way to do this. If the female Titan's partner is an existence as the armored Titan, only Mike and his squadron can watch them a little bit at that point. Captain Levi did not speak. Although most of his squad is still alive, they are all wounded and do not have the combat power at the moment. Petra for the moment joined in with Hange's unit. Jean Kirstein was surprised when he heard everything. To be honest, he had no idea that so much had happened. He carefully recalled the memory of the contact with the female Titan and discovered that she was, in fact, quite similar to Annie. This made his hands tense up. Marco's death was definitely related to her. Erwin said, "This is how it was decided to proceed. Annie Leonhardt is at the Sina City branch. We'll stop by there tomorrow when we go to deliver Eren and start the battle directly at that time." Hange Zoe hesitated. Once Armin and the others take Annie to the dungeon ruins, many civilians will possibly die in the city. Erwin said, "Sacrifice is inevitable, we can only keep moving forward. I will bear the full burden." There was no hesitation in the cold words spoken. Erwin was not a ruthless person originally, but he did not mind eliminating anything that stood in his way, even if there are mountains of corpses stopping him, he will do everything to achieve peace. Everyone was shocked, feeling the unbreakable will of the regimental commander. Levi looked at Erwin and thought of the indescribable smile Erwin sometimes showed without realizing it, which made him feel terrible. After arriving in the city, Hange Zoe will go to gather all the Survey Corps members who had mingled in the city these past 2 days and Takashi, Eren, Armin and Mikasa will lure Annie to the ruins of the dungeon where the power of the Titans would be limited. Of course, Takashi didn't think they could trick Annie into falling into the trap. If the negotiation failed, they would have to fight in the city. Now, other than Eren, no one would doubt that Annie was not the female Titan. As night fell, in the castle, Takashi sat on the brick floor, looking up at the bright moon in the dazed sky, and Armin sat beside him. "I've thought before that if Eren can become a Titan, then the colossal Titan and the battleship can have a human identity." Armin's deep voice rang out. "What I believe is that there are no good guys or bad guys in this world, just people fighting for what they believe is right." Takashi held his sword in its sheath and said, "I will kill my enemies and my enemies will try to kill me." Takashi looked up at the stars in the sky. He had visited Thomas these past few days and can only feel pain to see a good friend in such a state. Thomas didn't want to be in the Survey Corps, but he was pushed to that path by Takashi. Armin was silent. This is all very strange and puzzling. He remembered the conversation he had with Yama. She finally told him where she came from and the society outside the walls. If it was all true, the humans inside the walls are living in a simulation. The enemies outside are strong, they have weapons and titans. This was all a sham that was to be slowly uncovered as time progressed. Takashi wouldn't be surprised if the things underneath the basement of Eren's house are the answer he had just discovered from Yama. Knowing that, he could use it to converse with Annie. Takashi was also a little moved. What a strong will, at least now he doesn't have this kind of determination. He knew that every loss would be engraved in his memory. The plan was finalized and adequate manpower was organized. The Survey Corps sent only 50 soldiers. It's not that they don't want to organize more people. Transferring personnel on a large scale will easily expose them. After all, this is not an off-the-wall expedition. In the last 2 days, the regimental commander has allowed some Survey Corps soldiers to mix in the Sina district in batches, and they will all be divided into batches to leave tomorrow. Captain Levi will be watching for another Titan to emerge while standing next to Erwin and Jean, who was pretending to be Eren, while Hange Zoe had Takashi, Myaxa, Armin and Eren move in raincoats to hide their three-dimensional maneuvering equipment. We have all learned that we humans are terrible creatures, but within all that violence, we can find acts so beautiful that they leave us speechless, and those moments are the ones that every single human being has left in our memories. Happy families, children who want to stand out, and people who just want to live peacefully. Worries and desires are only influenced by the moment. Every human can be good in some way. The next morning, it seemed like a good day to make a natural change. Inside the Stois district of the Sina Wall, inside the gendarmerie branch, Annie slowly got out of bed, feeling very depressed. She has been in a bad state since the goal of capturing Eren failed a few days ago, and now she feels that she may never be able to return home. After cleaning herself up, Annie hurried out of her room. Her companions should already be waiting for her. When she arrived, she lined up and waited in silence. Soon after, an officer of the Gendarmerie Regiment began assigning tasks to the new members of the Gendarmerie Regiment, saying that they were to use three-dimensional maneuvering equipment to monitor the Survey Corps that was summoned by the king. A young man who did not quite understand the content of the report, named Marlowe, asked for some more details, and the superior officer answered him. The officer generously handed Marlowe the command and duties, then turned away to continue wasting time. Annie looked at all this with indignation. To be honest, she didn't care for the gendarmerie, and her colleagues here bored her. If she didn't want to investigate the royal family and the power of the coordinates inside the wall, she would have wanted to leave this island directly, but unfortunately, she still hasn't found anything so far. Since the Rice family was beaten by Eren's father, Rod Rice, a good brother, a good husband and a good father, was consumed by wrong ideas. A group of gendarmerie recruits complained in the front yard after the officer blamed them for everything. Marlowe, a young man full of wild ideas and noble aspirations, was so baffled by the corrupt and lazy behavior of the gendarmerie's senior officers, he couldn't help but complain loudly, "Fuck, these bastards do nothing but waste time." A female soldier named Hitch also sighed, "In fact, the gendarmerie is more rotten than I thought." Another recruit also said, "That's right, all the work is done by us newcomers, but aren't we here just for the good treatment in the future?" Marlowe was very dissatisfied. "I'm different from you, I came here to fulfill my dream." Hitch asked, "But what's he saying? Aren't you here to live a comfortable life? Aren't you also of his class?" Marlowe, a young man with ideals, aspirations and a conscience, said passionately, "No, I came here to change the gendarmerie situation." With a hint of disdain on her face, Hitch didn't take seriously, "How to change?" Marlowe said with a firm expression, "Of course I climb to a higher position first. When I am in a higher position, I will rectify the discipline and punish those who commit illegal activities." Ha 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 ha. Marlowe, are you serious? I didn't expect you to have that idea. I used to think you were a very boring person. Hitch mocked Marlowe. Marlowe, who was being laughed at, was a little annoyed. Annie looked at Marlowe and said to the odd person in the gendarmerie who liked her, "If the power is in the hands of a good person like you, then it really is all over for the future for us." Marlowe was stunned. "What? It seems that if you can communicate with people normally." Annie continued, "You are a righteous man and everything you say is right. I know two such people who dare to swim against the current. I admire them. Of course, it's possible they're just two fools trying to survive in this decaying world." Marlowe said haughtily, "Don't buy me with two idiots I don't know. Anyway, we've wasted too much time, let's go." A group of gendarmerie recruits went out to prepare for the mission, and happened to find two senior officers selling equipment privately at the port. Marlowe stepped forward to ask, but the old police smiled and handed him a coin he had just earned. Wanting to insist, Marlowe took a beating for trying to play nobleman in front of the old foxes. They wanted to dedicate this wrong-thinking kid inside the gendarmerie. In the end, it was Annie and Hitch who rescued him. Marlowe looked at the two old men who had pocketed the money and wanted to take the gun on the ground. Annie said coolly, "Shoot, if you dare to back up your words, I wouldn't mind helping you." After hesitating for a moment, Marlowe hit the ground and realized he didn't have that kind of determination and courage. Annie sighed, "Before I came here, one of the idiots told me that being in the gendarmerie for the first time, I would have to be obedient, help the elders do their jobs, stay out of other people's business, not have a stupid sense of justice, see and shut up everything I look at inside this place. If there are people who make a profit, I can try to get a cut, only after a few years new recruits will come and we will be the elders. After giving our job to the recruits we could do whatever we want." Marlowe scoffed bitterly, "He really knows the gendarmerie, so he didn't come. That idiot said he was fighting his own fight and had no intention of backing down. After that he joined the Survey Corps." Annie shook her head. This reason seemed silly to her. With his head down, Marlowe asked in a cracked voice, "So there are still idiots like that? If either of those two you mentioned were in my situation, would they have done it without hesitation?" "Maybe." Thinking of Eren and Takashi, Annie's headache grew stronger. The Survey Corps was going to come through here. For some reason she was a little uneasy. Marlowe burst into tears and pounded her fist on the ground. "Looks like I'm the kind of scum that goes with the flow too." Annie said slowly, "Aren't you just an ordinary person? There is nothing wrong with your behavior." She turned and walked away. If she had any other choice, she just wanted to be an ordinary person in this world. Annie believed that human life had no value for a long time, and she was abandoned at birth and adopted by a man who had a similar experience. She grew up to be a warrior. That was not the life she wanted, but now, there is no way out of her position. People are like weeds in the wind. Fate has a sickle in her hand and cuts into small pieces of us without considering our pain. Unbeknownst to anyone, Takashi had now infiltrated the Sena wall. Today something was about to happen that would change many things. To be honest, Takashi no longer remembered anything that happened from this point on. Everything that was about to happen he had no knowledge of, so now his decisions will have a radical change for everything that will happen later on. "No matter what, I will be myself," Takashi said in a cold voice. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Takashi's team successfully blended into Stois. On his side Eren and Jean completed the exchange without any problems. Due to Erwin's situation, Gendarmerie Division Chief Nildok personally escorted the Survey Corps soldiers. They were all in position and slowly began to move like ants in a colony. Takashi, Armin, Eren and Mikasa finally decided that Armin was the one to make Annie fall into the trap. Armin is the best candidate. Mikasa is ruled out until the last. She has no friendship with Annie. Takashi on his side could not convince Annie, and his performances are not good after all. Takashi could try to do it, maybe even better than Armin, but he didn't want to participate now. It wasn't the time yet. Armin's palms were sweating, hesitating. I'm not sure. Patting your shoulder, Takashi was gentle and said, just relax, you can definitely convince her. Remember, she didn't attack you when you looked at her in her Titan form. She might have feelings for you. Stunned, Armin opened his mouth, not knowing how to respond to Takashi's words for a while. Mayaksa looked at Takashi. Eren forced a smile and supported, Armin, you've always been very eloquent with your words. Be confident in yourself. Feeling the support of his friends, the survey's best actor Armin calmed down and trotted into an alley. Armin was very intelligent, and his words instilled a feeling full of spirit and empathy. Everyone could feel his words and empathize with him. Not long after, the gendarmerie recruits drew up on both sides of the street, and Nildok drove the carriage to escort Eren and Erwin through the streets of the city. The gendarmerie recruits saluted at the sight of Commander Nile. As they saw the carriage pass down the street, the recruits ran one after the other and followed the carriage to escort them. Annie also ran after the carriage, and then she heard Armin's voice calling her, Annie. Annie paused, ran into the alley beside her, and saw Armin hiding in a raincoat. As planned, Armin persuaded Annie to help him and Eren escape, saying that until they find enough evidence to get out of that trouble, they would have to hide and ask Annie for her help. After Armin issued another nice guy card, Annie seemed to have been tricked by a desperate young man. Annie lowered the gun, turned her back to Armin, and put a steel ring that she wears for transformation on her finger. The moment she saw Armin, she realized that she might have been discovered. Not killing him last time was a real problem. Annie didn't say much. This disaster couldn't be avoided. She walked with Armin and then met Takashi, Eren and Mikasa, who were wearing raincoats. She led Takashi and the others through various checkpoints. Takashi had to say that the military police were so strict that no one came to ask what was going on. A group of people exchanged a few words during the walk and gradually walked towards a corner of the city. For some reason, there were less and less people around. Takashi looked carefully at Annie, whom he hadn't seen in over a month, and found that she was actually very alert, intentionally or not, keeping a considerable distance. When he noticed the ring on her right index finger, he realized that it would be impossible to lead her to the ruins of the abandoned dungeon. He recalled that time he was busy in the kitchen and found a steel ring on a table. He examined it and discovered that it had some kind of thorn, which at the time he had used to remove dirt from his nails. Takashi was now very curious. At that moment, Takashi moved back and with slow movements took Annie's hand and pulled out her ring. You got married, why do girls wear rings like this? Which bastard gave it to you? Annie looked at the ring being snatched from her hand without her being able to react and replied, my father gave it to me to defend myself. After checking the ring, Takashi found the thorn and accidentally stuck it in his finger. A little embarrassed, he handed it to Annie and said, even though it's sharp, you can't use this thing to defend yourself. You have to use something like this. A little surprised, Annie looked at the dagger that came out of Takashi's butt and asked, do you always carry this with you? Well, I'm armed to the teeth, you don't know when you might run into a stupid thief. Takashi pointed to the sword on his back. Annie smiled softly, sorry, but I don't see who could steal anything from you. Yeah, I don't see anyone seeing you as a weak chicha either. Annie stopped talking and Takashi instead conversed about any nonsense to exhaustion. He didn't think much at this point, everyone will someday die after all. Stop it, Annie, You haven't seen a handsome man for a while. Takashi stopped suddenly and looked at Annie, who was still walking at the front of the group. Armin, Eren and Miyaksa were surprised. What was Takashi doing? They hadn't reached the right place yet. Annie turned around and looked at Takashi with a rare kind expression. It's been over a month, why do you think I have a boyfriend now? Shaking his head slightly, Takashi said, I'm sorry, but I don't think anyone can hold your hand like I did, right? Do you think I might have a girlfriend someday? Eren looked at Takashi with a little anxiety. He wanted to tell him himself that he shouldn't say anything else that wasn't out of the plan. Armin didn't know how to stop it. Raising his hand to signal them to be quiet, Takashi said lightly, Annie, can we talk? A rich feast, you and me alone, we can talk, right? Annie held back her smile and returned to her face full of coldness. I'm afraid I can't, I have no way out. Molly had no intention of negotiating, she was just a person considered a tool, she couldn't make decisions about this kind of thing and she couldn't even say much, because she would leak information. One can only say that Molly's top executives have a big heart as well, throwing 4 kids who know next to nothing about inside the wall onto the island and allowing them to complete a mission that shouldn't be done. Originally it wasn't all going to go this way, things shouldn't have gotten out of control like this, but Reina, who took over, had a series of bad ideas and all started with trying to kill Takashi. Armin's expression changed and his face turned pale. Ha ha, Takashi, you can try to have a date later, I don't even think there's time to talk about it now. Eren interrupted the weird conversation of the two of them, he felt he could still act. Takashi looked at Eren, Armin and Mikasa. I thought the idiot was Liam, can't you see we've already been spotted, didn't you look at his ring just now? Before, he didn't quite understand why a girl wore a ring with iron hooks, and at that time he wasn't interested. But now Takashi knows that it was used for transformation. She doesn't believe us at all and now she can transform with just a little touch, the mission has failed. Eren, Armin and Mikasa rested their eyes on Annie's hand, looking at the ring. Takashi had no intention of carrying out this failed plan from the beginning, so he only wanted to check other things that he might not be able to later. The atmosphere was oppressive and Annie, who was exposed, didn't panic, but she was a little surprised. Takashi, I always thought you were a careless and reckless man, but I didn't expect you to have such a careful side. Do they know that you can also transform into a demon? Takashi smiled and his eyes changed to a crimson color. They don't know yet. I'm surprised that the information about my power was well covered. By the way, compared to other ugly and deformed titans, the female titan looks very sexy. Annie, tell me it's not true. Eren looked at Annie angrily. When did you find out? Armin was a bit puzzled, he realized that Annie had seen through his deception from the beginning. Takashi covered one ear as he heard Eren scream in his hatred, this idiot screams even if he sleeps. Annie ignored the incompetent and angry Eren, she looked at Armin with weak eyes. Armin, when have you ever looked at me like that? You are someone very foolish, isn't there anyone but us in this place? The streets are deserted, except for a light breeze blowing from time to time. Armin was surprised, lowered his head a little and said in a deep voice, Annie, why did you do this? You're obviously not a cruel person, why can you kill so many people? Eren was even more reluctant to believe this and roared, say it. Tell us you're not her. At that instant, Takashi averted his gaze to Eren, his crimson eyes looking at the duo of idiots and said, hey, we're not here to play judge, assholes. Your eyes. Miyaksa was surprised to see Takashi's eyes. Armin and Ern were also shocked. What kind of eyes are those? After being silent for a while, Annie suddenly burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. I'm glad I'm a good person in your eyes. You won this game. I never thought I would be pushed to this point. How did you find me? Now Eren was stunned and had to admit that Annie was an enemy. Takashi took off his raincoat and revealed all of his gear. He looked at Annie and asked, I thought you'd be smarter, why let him live at that point? Still, can we negotiate? Hesitating a little, Annie said uncomprehendingly, sorry, I have a reason to. Armin's expression froze, Eren was furious and Mikasa's eyes were cold. Ha ha. Takashi showed a nervous smile, his expression was very strange. Shit. Do you all remember when I told you if you could negotiate with the colossal, armored titan? That's very strange. Why could I blatantly say that at that time? Is it because I'm too mature and rational, calm and objective, and take into consideration the situation we are in? Takashi held back his smile and looked a little sick. No, because I'm also a selfish bastard who just hopes to make something in this shitty world. I know what you all have suffered to get here. I led many of my friends to their deaths with the sole aim of making a change in this world. Then why can I still talk about peace in such a high-flown way? Because I still expect you to give me useful information to take revenge. Shit, where did you come from, Annie? I heard that the sea is very big and people everywhere bleed. Is your father a deformed titan too? Well, I'll be sure to cut him down along with all those crazy bastards. Armin, Eren and Myaxa were startled. They looked at Takashi with a fierce expression on their face. Annie on her side remained silent. Now that I remember, Nelson, Mina, Marco and all those soldiers are dead because of you and your stupid people. Annie, don't tell me you don't know the colossal titan and armored titan. May I ask, what kind of feeling did you feel when you found Mina's body? Takashi's voice was hoarse and his expression indifferent. With red eyes, Annie choked and said, I'm sorry. I know where you're coming from. Since life doesn't matter to them, I'll be sure to destroy their streets, kill their children and parents, burn your world just as you burned ours. But you can tell me a name. Takashi said coldly. Armin looked at Annie and said aloud, Annie, let's talk. There must be a solution. Annie broke down a little and cried, how can I talk? Even if I trust you, I can't trust others. Can you make the decisions now? At this point, if I am captured without a fight, I will lose the power to resist. Will you guarantee my safety? When I am tortured and dissected, will you come to save me? Armin glared at the tearful Annie. The negotiation broke down. The two sides had no basis for trust, and there were some hateful remarks. I swear to God, if you ever hint again about wanting to make peace with the enemy, I'll break your teeth myself. Takashi thought to himself. Annie, I was wrong, and now I don't expect your forgiveness. I only want to ask you one thing now. Promise me that you must come back. Even if everyone is against you, even if everyone hates you, Daddy will definitely stand by you. Annie gradually raised her hand and pushed aside the sharp hook blade on the ring of her right hand. She decided to give it a try. You're such a naive guy that you went to the battlefield to feed the titans. There may be glory on the battlefield, but life is more important and is something everyone should value. We are not fair, we are only born as human beings, comrades in arms, friends. Are you afraid of being alone in the future? Takashi raised his hand to point at Annie, his eyes underneath the black hair were glowing crimson. It seems you have a reason to fight too. That being the case, I'll respect your situation and say no more nonsense. Eren, stand down. Metallic sound. Armin and Mikasa pulled Eren back, and Takashi pulled out his swords that started to glow with a bluish color. Chakra had spilled over the edge of the blades. Annie, we are unlucky to be born in this world. We all share the pain of life and that makes us human. Don't hesitate if you can kill me later. I won't hesitate for defending my world. If I should die, don't regret it, because I won't regret it if you die. Our life in the training corps was beautiful, but the past has no mouth on the future. When I tell you this, I am very clear, right? Takashi used the three-dimensional maneuvering equipment to fly up to the rooftops of a building. Annie wiped tears from the corners of her eyes and sighed, "Well, we're clear, Takashi." As she spoke, she twirled the ring on her finger and the iron thorn scratched her thumb. Boom! There was a clap of thunder and electric light illuminated the whole street. The Titan appeared on the ground out of nowhere. Ouch! As soon as the female Titan appeared, she punched Takashi on the roof. Ouch! Tiles splattered and the roof collapsed. Takashi, who had been prepared for a long time, quickly retreated with his three-dimensional maneuvering equipment. He pulled the flare gun from his body and fired the signal to begin the battle. The female Titan grabbed a handful of gravel tiles and threw them at Takashi. Takashi's pupils shrank. What a vicious woman! Poof! Poof! Under her eyesight so perfect and far superior to any other human, Takashi dodged the gravel that was most dangerous and covered his body with chakra. Although some wounds were marked on his body, they were not lethal. Boom! Lifting his leg and kicking into the air, a ball-sized stone shot out like an arrow and flew towards the female Titan's left eye. Saplo! In a flash of blood, the female Titan unconsciously covered her left eye with her hand. The rock was able to hit her eye successfully, which generated a burst of steam. As a result, Annie's movements slowed down a bit and she was surprised that someone could kick such a large rock that requires more than just strength. Most importantly, the human body is made of flesh and bone, so how could Takashi not hurt his foot if he kicked a rock with such force? Takashi had decided Annie was his enemy and there was no choice to oppress his heart with past relationships. However, before he could think about it, two Survey Corps soldiers suddenly appeared behind the female Titan, flew through the air and pressed down, cutting the back of her neck with their swords. Crack! Crack! The blades of the two soldiers' blades shattered directly, and the back of the female Titan's neck instantly stiffened as she felt the wind cracking behind her. One soldier gritted his teeth and said, "Damn, that ability to harden her skin is really annoying." The female Titan turned around sharply, reached out to grab a retractable rope from a soldier's three-dimensional maneuvering equipment and slammed it to the ground. Saplo! Blood spilled and the Survey Corps soldier fell to the ground and died miserably. Retreat! When Takashi's voice came, the female Titan aimed at the other soldier, her quick movements giving the soldier no chance to escape. Clink! Suddenly, Mikasa dashed out and slashed the female Titan's heel. The female Titan knelt down on one knee, about to throw the soldier she had clutched in her hand. Whish! Quick cut! Combined with a feeling of revenge and strength, Takashi flew out from the back of the Titan's body like lightning and slashed the tendons of the hand with a twist of knives. Blood splattered and the entire wrist of the female Titan was severed. The Survey Corps soldier, who was caught, broke into a cold sweat and quickly freed himself from the severed palm of the female Titan, and with the help of his three-dimensional maneuvering equipment quickly retreated. Takashi looked at the female Titan with her smoking wounds and shouted, "Annie, are you still planning to capture Eren? You can't even be calm by yourself." The female Titan glared coldly at Takashi and Mikasa. Annie didn't know that she was the only one who had faced many Akamans and come out alive. 4 Akamans. Boom. Giving priority to repairing her leg muscles, the female Titan stood up, turned around and ran toward the wall of the Sena wall. Takashi fired a red flare again, and the members of Hanzo's unit no longer concealed their identities. Immediately around 34 soldiers making up 6 squads began to act. The female Titan was about to flee, and Takashi chased after her. He didn't want to let her have that chance. Bang bang bang. While chasing her, Takashi dodged a fist from the female Titan who backed away from time to time, or a sweep of her arm. However, he is so flexible that there was nothing Annie could do to hit him. Chasing after the female Titan, Takashi cooperated with Mikasa from time to time, making several cuts, slowing her down tremendously. The direction that the female Titan is heading is towards the Sena wall west of Stois district. Her main priority is to scale the wall and flee from this place. On the other hand, Hanzo looked at Eren and Armin who were running towards their direction and asked, "What's going on? Did the mission fail? Why were they discovered so quickly?" Armin hastily explained the situation. "Annie has seen our plan from the beginning. She had prepared herself with a special ring to activate her transformation quickly. We wouldn't have stood a chance. The plan to subdue Annie would have failed, so it was only possible to fight the female Titan from the front." Hanzo had a headache. "Eren, do you think you can defeat her?" Eren had bitten her thumb hard several times, bleeding profusely, but there was no sign that she could become a Titan. Hanzo stroked her forehead and said, "Petra, prepare a squad for ambush, attack when the female Titan is lured." Petra, who was saved by Takashi and temporarily assigned under Hanzo's orders, nodded and took a squad to prepare. After giving some more orders, Hanzo looked at Eren and said, "I know you may not want to fight your former friends, but you must be clear. If the plan fails you have to make a decision." The female Titan made a lot of noise as she faced Takashi and the others. Erwin got out of the carriage and put on a 3-dimensional maneuvering gear to check the situation. Gendarmerie Chief Nile Doc pointed a gun at him and shouted, "What did you do? Why are there Titans here?" At this moment, you didn't think there was a Titan inside the Sena wall, but the female Titan ran wildly and passed through the middle of the city. Many people have seen it and there have been many civilian casualties. Commander Erwin looked at Nile Doc coldly and said, "I think the questions are not for me. I have to ask you about why there is a gendarmerie soldier who transformed into a Titan." Nile asked Erwin angrily, "Are you crazy? Even if traitors are found in the gendarmerie, there will be many casualties in the battle going on here. You have violated many rights and I can shoot you now." Erwin was very calm, as if he was being aimed at with a toy gun. "So, the battle that is being fought now is up to you. Make sure you catch the enemy." Nile Doc was surprised. With a sweat on his forehead he said, "You. Damn it, I'll talk to the Supreme Commander later." Erwin turned his head and shouted to the other gendarmerie soldiers, "Send everyone out of the city, give priority to the nearest civilians." Understood. On the south side of the wall rose a Titan with fur covering his entire body, arms so long it's mind-boggling, climbed the wall, and with him went the Titan freighter. "I thought you'd be longer, monkey." A voice sounded next to him and a man smiled reassuringly at him. "Warhammer Titan. You failed to accomplish the mission." The Beast Titan spoke in a fluid, clear voice. "Well, the enemies have a monster among their ranks, we have to fight with all our power to end its life," said the man who had the power to transform into the Warhammer Titan. "Is it that hard?" "Not so much. His life must be running out by the time we face him. If we are smart, he will die while making use of his power. Well then. The Beast Titan looked off into the distance with unfamiliar thoughts. Marley finally sent out all the strongest warriors in his army. The enemy armies are about to move and war everywhere is about to break out. If they don't bring back a few warriors with the power of the Titans, the enemy army can cause them a lot of damage. In short, times have changed and all the Titans were gathering on a small island that has so far only struggled to survive. A demon awaits them. A man with the power of Susanoo is about to face his greatest battle. With the tools they had, they began to set the scene with a cerebrospinal fluid from their own spinal cord to turn humans into Titans. Their plans hovered over the town of Connie. Another child is about to lose everything. The gratitude of being saved and the resentment of being hurt began to intertwine their paths. Without realizing it, the rancor goes deeper and deeper, as if this will not end until one of the two sides completely collapses. Boom! 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 After everything was ready, the Beast Titan howled, the houses were smashed, and a group of Titans appeared out of nowhere. The Freighter Titan walked away along with the Warhammer Titan, and the Beast Titan took the group of Titans to roam south of the Rose Wall. Captain Mike sensed the approach of the Titans with his sense of smell, and the battle was about to begin. Mike along with the recruits of the 104th cycle went into action. In the Stois area, the fighting was also very intense. Boom! Bang! The female Titan had been slowed down by Takashi and Mikasa's swift blows, although Takashi and Myax's efforts were focused on saving the soldiers who were in danger and driving the female Titan into the trap. 6 soldiers had died so far. Quick cut. Takashi cut the tendon of the female Titan's arm and the blade shattered again. Annie couldn't worry about saving energy. In 4 out of 6 slashes she had to toughen her skin. A single carelessness and a pair of blades was headed for her body. Takashi, what should we do? We can't stop her. An old Survey Corps soldier looked at Takashi and asked anxiously. Takashi is now the captain of the front line. After the expedition outside the walls and his great contributions, he was one of the strongest soldiers. In addition to his skill that few know about, he has become very famous within the Survey Corps. Without panicking, Takashi's voice was flat. No more stopping her, the battle is where we wanted it. They weren't trying to kill the female Titan, they wanted to first find out if they could catch her, otherwise Takashi would have been more aggressive. As Takashi's heartbeat increased its rhythm, the female Titan was led to the street where the ambush was located. Indeed, a squad of 12 soldiers led by Petra flew out in front of the female Titan. Seeing this, the female Titan did not stop and instead increased her speed. However, when she was halfway down the street, poof! Poof! A large number of steel cables pierced the female Titan's limbs and knocked her to the ground. At the same time, Survey Corps soldiers stationed on both sides of the roof of the buildings shot barbed wires and pressed the female Titan to the ground. Improved the tactic to catch the female Titan. This was a similar way to the one performed in the forest of giant trees. Zoe jumped off a building with the help of her 3-dimensional maneuvering equipment and went to greet the female Titan. The cables tightened, the force Annie was exerting abruptly stopped and Takashi landed beside Zoe. It's not safe to be in this place, Captain, back off. Takashi said as a soldier brought him more blades. Relax, nothing will happen. Zoe said with a calm expression. Have the support teams prepare to intercept the female Titan with suppressive attacks, don't rush to take her out. Takashi said with a cool expression. Understood. It's a pity that the hastily arranged traps and the tiny amount of wires were too low. When Takashi issued the command, the female titan suddenly exerted force and broke free from the wires imprisoning her. When Takashi withdrew with Hanzoi, the female titan had already broken free. He was sure this was going to happen, so he rushed in and made sure Hanzoi didn't get hurt. The female titan, who had exhausted a lot of physical strength, ran forward without stopping. The city wall was not far away, so she hurried immediately. Under Takashi's orders, he fired a flare and about a dozen figures jumped from the buildings, and the two squads that had prepared began to intercept the female titan's advance. Takashi, with a cold calculating look, turned his head to Myaxa and said, after replenishing gas, "Don't attack and turn around, hide in a suitable position near the Sena wall in front of the female titan. If the female titan wants to come up, remember to put her down politely, we are the hosts and she is the guest, no need to let her go." "Yes." Mikasa didn't say much, he looked at Eren, who couldn't transform for all this time, and quickly walked away. Now this part of the interceptors is commanded by Takashi. Although many people are not convinced by him, no one will violate the order at this time. Armin. We don't need Eren, he will be a danger if he loses control of his emotions, I will take care of the female titan. Takashi shouted, bringing everyone out of their thoughts. After replenishing gas he was ready for the real battle. After that Takashi also continued to run forward, he turned his head and looked at Eren not far away. Armin and Jean were conversing with trying to focus his awareness on the situation. Armin looked straight into Eren's eyes and shouted, "Eren, a person who can't sacrifice anything won't be able to do anything in the future, I hope you remember your dreams. Some things have to be done even if you give up your humanity. The plan to capture Annie failed. I have to help the team intercept the female titan, take care of yourself." Armin didn't say anything else, he pulled out his swords and ran towards the direction of the female titan. "Armin!" Eren shouted at Armin, seeing him risk his life by trying to intercept Annie in her titan form. Jean snorted, "Aren't you going to kill all the titans? We all put our lives and hopes on you, but we don't expect you to let the enemy escape. You can think what you want. I'm going to fight too, I have a friend to avenge." Jean pulled out her double knives and flew away with the help of her three-dimensional maneuvering equipment. With a beat of his heart, he stopped abruptly. No matter how he tried, he couldn't transform into a titan to love the female titan. "You must kill him. Takashi can't be trusted, you must kill him. He does not seek our freedom, you must do it now. Our plans will be ruined if he does not die, you must kill him." Hearing that familiar voice in his consciousness, Eren froze. Unmoving, he suddenly knew that to transform into a titan requires a certain goal and fighting spirit, and the strength of different consciousnesses will also be of help. Boom! Lightning flashed in the sky, illuminating the corner of the city. A titan with black hair, green eyes with a bright bluish color, pointed ears and muscles all over his body was standing in the street. Eren in his titan form let out a huge roar and ran madly towards the female titan who was fighting with Takashi and a dozen Survey Corps soldiers. Boom! 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 As soon as the female titan turned her head, she saw Eren in his titan form running towards her and threw a punch directly. Boom! The female titan flew backwards in the air and crashed into a church building, splattering a lot of debris. The dust rose up like a smoke screen and her body was embedded in the rubble. The female titan looked at some people who were crushed to death by herself, her eyes stopped and then she immediately stood up, ready to flee. Eren in his Titan form was chasing the female Titan through the streets of the city. Armin, wasn't it clear to you that we didn't need Eren's help? Takashi yelled with a cold expression. I didn't tell him. Armin muttered. He knew that Eren's help was needed to take down the female Titan. The Survey Corps members, including Eren, Armin Jean, Hange Zoe, and Petra, moved around without concentrating on how things were unfolding. Erwin Smith, the Survey Corps commander, and Captain Levi came to the bridge on the side of the wall to watch the Titans chase each other. Levi stood on the sidelines to see if another Titan appeared. Next to him was a Survey Corps team ready to act at a moment's notice. This time they would not be surprised. Roar! Eren in his Titan form, who was following the female Titan, immediately lassoed a punch without a bit of hesitation. All the strength of his body focused on his arm. The female Titan raised her hand, her elbow stiffened and blocked the incoming punch. Eren in his Titan form shattered his fist, but still ignored the damage. He immediately swung his other fist and charged towards the female Titan, wanting to continue attacking. The female Titan's eyes turned cold, her right leg stiffened instantly and swept upwards with impressive speed, passing over Eren's head. Eren's Titan head was thrown backwards abruptly, but Eren reacted quickly and raised his left arm to defend. This time he lost only his arm. Defend and evade. Don't attack, follow the plan to exhaust his physical strength, shouted Takashi. Everything is constantly changing and not everyone depends only on one person to win a battle. This time Eren didn't seem to be driven to the extreme, as if two parts of his consciousness were fighting for two completely different goals, but he seemed to be calmer and, most importantly, under control. Hearing Takashi's roar, the female Titan seemed to change her way of moving and showed a defensive stance, blocking the dangerous attacks coming towards her. Boom! Poof! The female Titan steadied her lower body. On the other hand, Eren in his Titan form had joined in and took special care to protect himself against Annie's kicks. Actually, Takashi discovered that the hardening takes a short period of time to form. Every time the female Titan's hands and feet harden, Eren in her Titan form began to retreat and dodge the attacks. If it is impossible to dodge the attacks, Eren in her Titan form will sacrifice parts of her body covering vital areas. Boom! Boom! 5 minutes passed. The female Titan was slowly attacked. Her whole body was now covered in wounds, but she still remained standing. Takashi watched the female Titan with admiration. Even though she was prioritizing everyone's survival, it wasn't 1 or 2 attacks that Annie was receiving every minute. Seeing that she was unable to attack him for a long time, Annie became nervous. This time she had only advanced less than 30 meters. Just now, Takashi together with the attack squad cooperated excellently, draining much of her energy. Annie knew it would be impossible for her to continue like this. Swoosh! The female Titan, with an uneasy feeling, ran towards Eren in her Titan form with her stiffened arms. Now! Eren's heart in her Titan form fluttered. Dodging a punch that was aimed at her head, Eren hit Annie's ankle with a kick. Ouch! The female Titan, who lost her balance, tipped to the side and fell to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Eren in his Titan form grabbed the foot of the female Titan and swung it violently. In an instant, the female Titan was thrown over 10 meters. Looking at the female Titan that rolled on the ground, it immediately got up. Eren in his Titan form averted his gaze to Takashi and formed a half smile, but it wasn't a smile. This time he had used Annie's ability that he used to knock him down numerous times during training. Kill! 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 Aaron's thoughts were in a mess, but he tried to concentrate first on solving the situation where he was. During all this time, Takashi sent back the members who had spent a lot of their gas in the long fight that was going on. He couldn't attack without thinking due to Aaron's intervention, though this gave him some breathing room to better organize the soldiers. The female Titan on her side stood up and found herself away from the Sina wall again. Annie knew that Aaron had attacked her with intelligence, so she thought carefully about her course of action. This Aaron in his Titan form did not rush to attack, he assumed a boxing stance, ready to continue defending himself. Exhaling a long steam from his mouth, Aaron now seemed to be using his head. Annie knew it too. Aaron was very difficult to deal with if this one decides to fight smart. Gritting her teeth, the female Titan made another series of moves, punching so hard that she almost couldn't defend herself, but still couldn't defeat Aaron. Who? Stiffening her feet and arms, the female Titan attacked and broke Aaron's right foot. Aaron in his Titan form, who had lost his leg, skipped defense and went on the attack. Grabbing the female Titan's arm, he bit down hard without stopping. Crack! Aaron's Titan teeth almost cut the female Titan's arm, which was hardened. Ah! With a scream, the female Titan used all her strength to lift Aaron in her Titan form that was biting her arm and smashed it into a building, sending bricks and stones flying. Aaron, in his Titan form who lost his right leg, was left sitting in the ruins of the building but still wouldn't let go of the female Titan's arm. Annie had already lost her mind, stiffened her arms and started attacking Aaron to get him to let go. Boom! 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 7 or 8 consecutive blows nearly crushed Aaron's head. Only then did Aaron loosen his grip. The female Titan looked at Aaron in her motionless Titan form, stepped out of the rubble and ran with difficulty towards the Sina wall. While all this was going on, Takashi had been monitoring it and organized the squads again. At the front, Mikasa had already been positioned for a surprise attack. A mouse in a huge cage, a deplorable image for such an exceptional warrior. Takashi looked at Annie in a deplorable state. This time he wanted to catch the female Titan. You can't escape from my hands, Annie, you have no way out unless one of your friends shows up. After endless injuries and hardships, the female Titan finally reached the city wall, pierced the surface of the city wall with her hardened fingers and climbed up quickly. For some strange reason, Aaron in her Titan form did not stand up and attack again, but was stunned. But under Takashi's keen observation, she used Aaron to get everything under her control from the start. Zoe was immediately shocked. We can't let him escape. She has no chance to escape, she's completely desperate and there's no action that will take her out of our reach. Takashi said with a serious expression. Mikasa, who had already been lurking under the wall, flew up to a considerable height with her three-dimensional maneuvering equipment. Swoosh! Like an eagle hunting its prey, Mikasa swooped towards the female Titan and cut off the 10 fingers of Annie's hands that were clinging to her. Only way out of this place. The female Titan fell off the wall with a desperate expression. Come down, Annie. Mikasa said with a calm look. The female Titan who fell from the wall gave priority to her hand healing and with her last strength looked at Mikasa who was clinging to the wall with indifferent eyes. The female Titan inserted her hand into the rubble and grabbed a handful of dirt with stone and threw them at Mikasa. Mikasa nimbly dodged the debris thrown in her direction, but the pressure was too much and she had to flee the scene. The female Titan did not try to chase her. She wanted to climb back up the wall in a last attempt to get out of the city. Nildoc on the high wall looked at Owen and Levi who remained silent, looking at the surroundings. looks like they failed again, they will pay a heavy price for their actions. Erwin and Levi didn't respond, they both stared at the female titan who was about to attempt to scale the city wall again. At that moment, Takashi, who had found the right opportunity, had already moved at a terrifying speed. In midair, he unsheathed his sword that always accompanied him everywhere, and chakra flowed from the edge of the blade through his limbs. The edge of the blade trembled, the sword in Takashi's hands glowed a bluish color, and he could swear that this attack would cut through anything in this world. Whistling. Hearing the sound of the wind breaking behind her, the female titan turned around and threw a punch. Her eyes met Takashi's crimson eyes for a brief moment. Takashi will cut them all to pieces, humanity will at some point take revenge. Marco's words rang suddenly in Annie's ears. Without hesitation, the female titan struck with all her might with her right hand. Takashi in midair, under the enormous tension of the retractable rope stretching and the chakra bursting with force, his head-bowed body spun madly, all the while holding the sword in his hands he began to spin with a flash of power. With nothing to slow him down or support him, Takashi concentrated the chakra on the soles of his feet and began to attack. Swish! Slash! His sword slashed along the female titan's arm, piercing deep into her skin to her bones and leaving a devastating burst of blood. This scene shocked Annie, who was inside the female titan. Before she could react, Takashi, who had been running in a straight line, had raised the blade of his sword to her shoulder. The female titan also braced herself and opened her mouth. She would not let Takashi hurt her anymore. If Takashi rushed towards her neck, he would risk being bitten and split in two. It's a pity that Takashi's fighting methods don't relate to any of the soldiers. Shua! Shua! In a few seconds, Takashi released the sword from his hands and in just an instant pulled out two blades from his waist and thrust them into the female titan's eyes, blinding her sight completely. The female titan unconsciously shielded the back of her neck with her only remaining hand with strength and stiffened her palm. However, Takashi would not go for the back of the female titan's neck. Instead, he released both handles of his swords and again held onto his sword and with both hands slashed a dozen times at the female titan's throat. CHSS. Shua. CHSS. Takashi not only attacked the right side of the female titan's neck, but also seized the moment and rushed to the left side and slashed the female titan's intact arm, protecting her neck. In 3 forceful cuts, Annie's arm was left dangling from her body. Now Annie's neck was completely unprotected. This is the end, dear friend. With a whisper, Takashi vented all his resentment and attacked with all his might. Although the damage to the female titan's body was mainly focused on her neck and shoulders, the demonstration was too aggressive. The female titan, losing her strength, knelt on the ground. Shua! Shua! Without the slightest pause, the edge of the sword in his hands continued to cause damage to the female titan's throat. According to the information, the female titan can concretize healing on a specific part of her body, so Takashi naturally wasn't going to give her that chance. Moving to the other end of her throat again, Takashi this time attacked her jaw. Takashi felt a tingling in his body and every limb of him exploded in force, the fury and venting of losing many friends now discharged as a cascade of attacks. The damage to the female titan's body was irreparable. Takashi was now proving that he didn't need to use his Susanoo to defeat an intelligent titan. With one last attack, Takashi swept the edge of the sword, an edge that was refined by none other than Aldous, a blacksmith who died at the hands of the titans in the Trust district. Saplo. Blood splattered everywhere from the female titan's neck, staining the surroundings of her body, and in an instant most of her head had been severed. With a final burst of blood, the female titan's head fell to the ground and she dropped to her knees. Bang! As the steam grew more intense, the headless body of the female titan with the severed arms fell to the ground. The scene was extremely bloody. Due to the hardened skin on the nape of the female titan, Takashi didn't cut its neck, but cut off most of its head from its throat to its jaw. Whistling. The gendarmerie members who were watching, even Marlowe, gasped. They had never seen how the others cut the titans, but this demonstration was definitely not common. The violent scene of cutting off the female titan's head scared them a little. But they weren't the only ones surprised. All the Survey Corps soldiers felt chilled. The sword demon was doing justice to its title. Ha ha, unbelievable. You cut off his whole head. Hanji was immediately thrilled. Armin, Jean, Petra and all Survey Corps members didn't have such a strange heart. They all felt a little tingle. They also cut titans, but this scene is as cruel and weird to watch as looking at a titan that speaks human language. Niall, the head in the gendarmerie on the upper wall, swallowed saliva and couldn't help but feel a little scared. He had seen this young cadet before and was very impressed with his bravery. After all, he had a great impression of Takashi at Eren's trial. He knew from the reports that Takashi was a strong soldier, but he didn't expect him to be an uncontrollable demon. Captain Irwin flashed a smile. Naturally, he wouldn't be scared of this scene. He knew who Takashi was familiar with after all. The female titan was consumed to the limit of her physical strength, so it was not possible for her to transform again. With Takashi's excellent control and strength, Irwin's confidence in letting Takashi this time be the one to command the attack was the right thing to do. He didn't care about success or failure. He knew that somehow or another Takashi would take care of the female titan. Levi raised his eyebrows, thinking that his nephew had now become a monster just like him, though he didn't think it was shocking, especially since he had done it before, but the way Takashi swung his knives showed him that he had become an excellent warrior. And now, even without Levi's help, they had defeated the female titan. Levi waited patiently for some other intelligent titan to intervene, but it seems he thought too much. On the field, Takashi, who was drenched in warm blood and could not keep his eyes open, did not stop. He walked to the back of the female titan's neck. Takashi looked at Annie inside the female titan's neck. He wanted to finish her off without hesitation. Sure. Suddenly, Takashi, who swung his sword towards Annie, saw her close her eyes, lying on the back of the female titan's neck, tears running down her haggard face. Takashi's hand holding her sword trembled slightly, but she was not going to stop. She had already lost the last chance to negotiate. However, the dazzling rays of white light began to radiate everywhere and the sword heading towards Annie vibrated steadily, and her feet felt a slight tingling. Just as Takashi was about to instantly flee, heavy footsteps were heard in the distance and Eren in his titan form had moved towards the female titan. "Takashi, watch out!" shouted Hanji. It seems Eren had come to himself to attack the female titan, but everyone knew that the battle was already over. Takashi, who was plasmid on the back of the female titan's neck, turned his head towards Eren, and this time he felt him differently. As if this wasn't Eren and was controlled by someone else. "Everyone get away!" shouted Takashi, but when he wanted to retreat, he didn't have time to hold his swords to get out of this place. Bang! Eren's fist in his titan form headed towards Takashi directly. By this time Takashi had already prepared himself and used the first form of his Susanoo. A curtain of steam formed and Takashi went flying, his body covered in bones made of purple chakra. He shot out towards some houses. "Levi, take over," Erwin Smith said as he saw that everything had gotten out of control. TCH. Levi and the squad on top of the wall headed towards Eren in his Titan form. Just now Levi could swear that the blow wasn't meant for the female Titan, but was directed towards Takashi. "He is our enemy, he does not seek freedom. An anomaly, he must not exist." The voices in Eren's head echoed again until he lost control and began to vent his fury on the female Titan's body. However, it was too late. Layers of a hard, transparent glass-like material continuously covered the female Titan's body, enveloping Annie in a crystal prison. "Eren!" shouted Amin and Mikasa. They saw Eren hit Takashi and didn't know how to act right now. Eren in his Titan form let out a roar before falling to the ground. His power had been exhausted and he was now unconscious. When Levi arrived, he looked at Eren who was in Mikasa's arms, looked at the soldiers and ordered, "Keep an eye on Eren, if he makes a move, don't hesitate to kill him." "Yes, sir." "Do you think I'm some kind of person with a strong sense of justice?" "Sorry, I don't know you well enough to know that about you. A person like you wouldn't understand a weak woman like me." Crack. Takashi came out of the ruins of a building. A moment ago Eren had just attacked him, but that wasn't his problem. "Damn, that bastard he just did just now." His eyes deactivated and he slowly walked outside. Just now if he didn't make use of his Susanoo's first form, Eren might have killed him. "He wasn't unconscious," muttered Takashi under his breath. Just now he thought Eren had no chance to resume his fight, but it turned out that he lost control once again. Was it really a mistake? Takashi frowned. He wanted to think the best but his instinct told him otherwise. "Takashi, are you feeling good?" A large number of soldiers approached Takashi. Just now they saw how he was sent flying by Eren's punch. "Yeah, how's the situation?" Takashi asked with some dizziness. "Everything is under control. The female Titan is covered in a foreign material and Eren has lost consciousness." After a while, Levi and Mikasa approached Takashi, wanting to check if he was okay. He could only reply that he was fine. "I would live less but I was fine." With a new three-dimensional maneuvering equipment, Takashi returned to where the female Titan and Eren were. He watched as a large number of soldiers looked at him with a serious expression. Just now they all watched as Eren lost control. They didn't know how to act so they could only watch him. Mikasa looked at Takashi, who was covered in blood and said, "We couldn't get any information out of him. He's a damn mess, his hardening ability was able to use it this way." Sighing, he walked towards Commander Erwin not far away and said, "If I had stabbed her just now, I could have interrupted her crystallization. But it seems Eren was controlled by his feelings and interfered." Mikasa watched him go silently. She found out that he wasn't as strong as she thought. Takashi raised his head and looked at the hole in the wall where the female Titan had grabbed when she fell, and the face of a Titan emerged in it. "This is a mess," Takashi muttered under his breath. "There are a lot more secrets in this world than I imagined." Takashi had walked over to Commander Erwin Smith with his uncle Levi to observe the condition of the female Titan. Luckily, in his uncle's words, no trace of any other intelligent Titan appeared to surprise them like last time, so they had won today. Commander Erwin reflected for a moment and said, "It seems that we could not get any information from the female Titan for the time being. However, the walls of our humanity seem to be made of Titans. It seems that that cult that teaches about the walls must know something. Erwin looked solemnly at Father Nick with an anxious face as he rushed over. The priest hurried to tell Hange, Zoe and the others to use something to block the exposed Titan parts of the walls. Levi looked at Takashi, who still had evaporated blood, indicating he was injured, and asked, "Are you hurt?" Takashi shook his head to indicate that he was fine. He had some external wounds on his body, but they were nothing serious. He could tell that the attacks he made were a bit over the top. Levi looked casually at Eren and remarked, "The kid lost control again and almost killed Takashi. We shouldn't rely too much on his abilities yet, he's a danger to the Legion." Erwin looked at Takashi. Just when Takashi had the chance to interrupt Annie's crystallization, Eren went crazy and intervened. Eren had control of his Titan until he was knocked down by the female Titan. I honestly don't know what went wrong for him to lose control like that, Takashi said with a bit of irritation. Levi didn't mention Eren again and pointed out, "She should be your friend, are you okay with having attacked her?" Looking at his nephew, Levi wanted to somehow make sure he didn't feel guilty. This world is getting more and more surreal and he wants at least his own to be mentally prepared for anything. "You don't need to feel bad, you did an excellent job this time. I don't think I could do any better if it were me." Takahashi was surprised to feel the concern and kindness his uncle had for him. Nile on his side frowned and said, "I still wonder how you're alive, but more importantly we didn't get any information from her, did we?" "It's not that there's no information from our side. It seems that some people know more than us and the rest of us are just kept in the dark," Erwin said as he looked at the Titan inside the wall. He realized that in addition to the 3 walls, there was another invisible wall blocking the steps of the humans and something where he had to be attentive. Also, the royal family's performance has been very strange recently, and according to the words of the head of the gendarmerie, they don't seem to know what is going on with the king. Nile Doc looked at Eren, who had woken up, and shouted, "Erwin, you saw how that monster lost control, didn't you? You should imprison him now that he's in his weak state. You can't let a beast like him free." Takashi looked at Nile coldly, and this time he was not so polite to the gendarmerie authority. "Captain Nile, if you have so much time to interrogate us and issue orders, you should think about how to explain to the higher-ups why an intelligent Titan appeared inside the gendarmerie, your jurisdiction." Nile was startled by Takashi's fierce gaze, then thought about everything this young man had done and couldn't help but coldly hesitate. "You?" Erwin smiled and said, "Takashi, order our people to help rescue the wounded. If you don't think you have the energy to do it, leave the job to someone else." "I understand," Takashi replied, then ran and started giving orders for the Survey Corps to start rescuing civilians. Erwin looked at Takashi's back and then looked towards Eren. He couldn't help but frown. He thought Takashi's idea about not leaving all trust in one person was true. Eren's behavior now was a danger to everyone. Takashi on his side ran with more than 30 Survey Corps members to start rescuing the civilians. Originally, this time more than 40 soldiers could arrive. In addition to the special squad that was with Levi, more than a dozen people died when the female Titan was intercepted. Takashi looked at all the Survey Corps members in front of him and said, "The battle is over, but our duty continues. Go help the civilians who are waiting for our help. Petra and Niffer organize 2 different groups and make sure to cover the hardest hit terrain." "No problem." Everyone was in awe of him this time. After seeing the scene where Takashi cut off the female Titan's head, everyone recognized his strength. In addition, Takashi saved the lives of many soldiers who could not have been alive at this moment, so they instinctively felt that Takashi was someone very special. Zoe took it upon herself to order her people to cover the glass that was removed from the female Titan's body where Annie appeared to be asleep. Then she took it upon herself to help the panicked priest Nick cover the holes in the wall that exposed the Titan's face with cloth for the time being. Zoe tried to ask priest Nick the secret of the Titans inside the walls, but the priest was a very stubborn man. He used to be an alcoholic. He drank until he lost his family and took refuge under the belief of the walls and their secrets. Therefore, even though Zoe almost threw him from the city wall to a height of 50 meters, he did not reveal any important information, so Zoe could only retreat this time. Father Nick, who teaches the wonders of the wall, has long known that the city wall is made of Titans, but for some reason, Father Nick would rather die than tell the secret of the wall. Takashi did not know the reason why Father Nick kept this secret. He had lost the knowledge about the future a long time ago and now he did not know what would happen in the future, so now he had to think and find out many things by himself. Despite being tired, Takashi participated in the rescue of the civilians, and when he walked to the room where Eren was being guarded, it was already late afternoon. With a sword on his back, Takashi approached the room to check Eren's condition. It seemed that to the naked eye Eren was in good condition in the fight against the female Titan, but Takashi wasn't just thinking about that. After the female Titan fell, Eren attacked in a very aggressive and seemingly out of control manner. Eren only after everything was under control, he woke up, but he didn't remember the last thing that happened. Mikasa was sitting in a chair next to the bed. She had been taking care of Eren since the war against the female Titan was over. Armin and Jean were also in the room telling Eren everything that had happened, including the Titans inside the walls. Eren sighed, in other words, we have no information, and even the wall that has been protecting the humans to be made of Titans. Armin and Jean were quiet and answered him. He obviously wasn't in a very good mood, which was ironic considering they won. Well, that's the truth we have to hold on to. This time it's your fault. If you hadn't interfered, the female Titan would have been captured and no one would die in vain. Takashi opened the door after greeting the two soldiers guarding Eren. Eren, who was surprised by the voice, showed a guilty expression and said, Takashi, I heard that I lost control of my emotions again. I'm really sorry. Are you okay? I don't know what happened. I remember I had lost the ability of mobility and then I heard a hissing sound and I didn't remember anything else. If it wasn't my fault, maybe Annie wouldn't have crystallized. Takashi's expression turned cold, looking at Eren without moving from where he was standing. Don't give me that shit right now. You had full control of your Titan, how can you lose control like that? Everyone looked at Takashi with serious expressions. Eren was definitely the culprit this time, there was no other explanation for his behavior in the battle. Eren clenched his fists and said, I don't know. I didn't know what happened either, I'll try to get much better at not interfering again. Again. Takashi said, do you think people will trust you again? It's a surprise that you're not imprisoned. This time I didn't make a fuss about our friendship, but if you do it once again, I'll keep you away from the battlefield even if I have to imprison you. Mayaka looked at Takashi and interjected, Eren wasn't in control. It won't happen again Takashi, forgive him. Takashi averted his gaze to Mikasa and frowned, this time it was me, when will you learn that not all of Eren's actions are justifiable? Just as Takashi was about to leave, a military policeman entered and immediately ordered, Takashi Ackerman, Armin Olet, Jean Kirstein, report for debriefing. Takashi, Armin and Jean left, leaving Mikasa and Eren alone in the room. Walking through the streets, looking at the rocks and the destroyed houses. This is where the heart of the gendarmerie resides. On the way, Jean sighed with emotion. It's not good at all, the battle is not a success again. Armin smiled. That's good, at least we captured Annie. We also learned about the composition of the wall, though it's not good news for anyone. Jean looked at Takashi, who was silent. How did you survive Eren's direct hit? It seemed like you didn't have a chance to escape. How did you manage it? Armin looked at Takashi with a nervous expression. He still remembered when he looked at Takashi with those strange eyes. Takashi sighed, a little confused. My father experimented with my body to match the power of the Titans. Unlike Eren, my ability is very different and that helped me survive. Now he has no idea what will happen later. The people next to him would be the ones who will fight by his side later, so he can share this information. That's... Armin muttered under his breath. Commander Erwin and the Survey Corps higher-ups are aware, it's not something as serious as Eren. Takashi said with a few simple words. And you can make use of your power whenever you please. That's amazing. Why did you keep that power a secret if it was something so brilliant? Jean looked at Takashi with different eyes. I hadn't thought about it. How strong is the hidden power in your body? Armin asked carefully. To tell the truth, Takashi's power wasn't the same as Eren's, so he was curious what it could do. Well, it's not beneficial for my body to make use of that power. However, I'm unrivaled if I use my full power from the start. Takashi said with an intriguing voice. The world is going crazy. I don't know what's been going on in the past few months. It seems like we're living in a simulation. Jean said, not wanting to think about what she had discovered. Well, I don't want to find out what happens later either. Takashi replied in a calm voice. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Armin said with a determined look. He had learned how Takashi behaved. Even if he is not an understandable person with mistakes and failures, he decides to always look for the future. That's it guys, hope you like the video. Stay tuned to see the next parts. Like, share and subscribe the channel. And tell me your recommendation in comment section down below. Thanks for watching.